I would not have ever thought that we'd get to restaurant 2, never mind 27, and yet this thing marches ahead. And there were queues around the block, and as a result, I could grow the way I've grown. It's the first national Indian chain in that way. For something to take off for me, you need lunch trade and evening trade. I'm not interested in a restaurant that only trades in the evenings for 5 days a week. And to do that, you have to look at your demographic. And I would go and sit outside restaurants and cafes and Greggs and see who was ordering what. Was there an appetite for curry? And you've got to think about what is my price point. So if I want men in high-vis to come and eat in my restaurant, it's got to be a certain price point. Those conversations I have where people come to me and complain are the most useful ones. People wrote back and said, listen, nobody wants to go out for a meal and order an omelette. It's the word omelette, so then we changed the name. Building a delivery element to your business is like building about 4 restaurants. The amount of manpower that it takes.
What's been the boldest thing you've ever done?
So the boldest decision was
So would you say you're a workaholic?
I'm not a workaholic, but I don't, here's the thing, I'll tell you what. I think it's really important, if you can, to find a job that you love. And if you do, then you've not worked a day in your life.
Yep.
As a result, there's not a day that I wouldn't work. And I'm not just talking. So as a barrister, you're self-employed. So if you don't work, you don't earn. So I had 3 weeks maternity leave. Yeah, so you can say that's a workaholic, but otherwise I wouldn't have been able to pay the mortgage. My husband's a guitarist, so there you go. So my arse off. So then, and then, Mowgli, you're completely self-employed. It's just you. And so you don't have, and if my philosophy is, if my people are working, I'm working, and we're open 7 days a week. I was just talking to Emily before, and every single night we get the reports in from every single restaurant. Probably get in about midnight, 1. And I don't go to sleep until I've read every single one.
What's on those reports?
Oh my God, it's amazing. That tells you all the lows and the highs. And we're most interested in the lows. What did we run out of? What were the complaints? What happened? What broke? The highs are, who brought the cutest dog in? Did somebody come in on their own to celebrate their 23rd birthday? That kind of thing that makes you think.
I think a lot of people listen to this podcast for like kind of super practical wisdom like that, because one of the people I've interviewed is a lady called Libby Gibson, who's done she helped with the Flatiron exit and stuff like that, and she's got this really nice principle called 7-17-70.
Mm-hmm.
She basically goes, you get stuck at 7 sites. 0 to 7 is really hard. 7 to 17 sites is it's kind of like a framework. 17 sites is really, really hard, and then going from that 17 upwards is like that next leap. But on that journey for yourself, and I think scale can sometimes kill magic. It's a really hard thing to keep alive. How does the report keep the magic alive as because how many sites you guys at now? So my research
27, yeah.
27. So you're like past that 17 bit.
How does the report keep it alive?
Yeah, like what actually do you look for in your report?
So can you imagine? So each one of those restaurants, it's to me, it's like one of your children. Honestly, it's like a child. I built those things with my own hands,
Yeah.
In the beginning, I built each one literally physically with my own hands. I built the first 3 restaurants. And so therefore, and whichever way you cut it. So I was coming back through the airport in Bangkok. I was stopped 3 times for people to tell me about Mowgli. One of them was about something about celiacs, something was about how much they loved it, something was about, where'd you get this from? You are forever, until I die, I will be the kicking boy for the physical manifestation of Mowgli and the kicking boy for it, or whatever, or the one that they come to talk to. So, my gosh, therefore I have to live and breathe what's going on in my restaurants, and absolutely have to live and breathe that. And I built these restaurants. The reason I started Mowgli is, honestly, and it goes back to my whole philosophy about life, is to build something that is kind of in a crazy way, just to bless that city that has looked after me, Liverpool. That's where I started her, that looked after me so well. I love that city.
Yeah.
And it's to give something to the people of that city. And I didn't think Mowgli, honestly, when I built my first Mowgli, I thought we would fail within 6 months, a year. So therefore I took a 2-year break clause on the lease, and I decorate every Mowgli as though it's going to fail and I need to turn her into a coffee shop within 24 hours. So there's nothing ostensibly Indian flop wallpaper about it. You know what I mean? So I could, if you look at this room, take curry out of it, you totally could have coffee and pastries in this room and it would be fine. There's nothing that is
That kind
ostensibly...
of pulling that back, is that I'm correct me if I'm wrong, that immigrant fear.
Yeah, total insecurity.
Wow.
You just think nobody's going to want to eat this food.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? No one's going to want to eat the way an Indian eats it authentically at 11 o'clock. But the best thing about Britain is it is the most open-minded nation in the world when it comes to the world's cuisine. Mowgli would not have worked in France or in Italy, or actually up to this point, and I think it would work in America now. But, North America would not
Why
have...
do you think that is?
I can tell you exactly, honestly, and here's the truth.
Because there's a lot of
Because
other cultures, cities in Europe that that are diverse, not as diverse.
Not
as
as diverse.
But there's I think that's one part of it. But like, and what I'm trying to maybe dig at is the openness.
I tell you what. So if you look at Amsterdam, they're very good with Indonesian food. You know what I mean? Different nations have had an allegiance with, and it comes from where did they have their empire? You know what I mean? Which nations had they ruled? And so because the Dutch had a link to Indonesia or whatever it might, that's why that's taken off.
Interesting.
Britain had most of the globe, didn't it?
Yeah.
And I think it comes from empire. I think it comes from the fact that Britain owned most of the globe. It took the chip off its shoulder. They also got addicted to spice. They loved spice. They spent a lot of time out in India. So when they came back, they wanted the same spice, and so that's where this open-mindedness came from. It's also in not having a chip on their shoulder. I think there is a genuine inquisitiveness, because many of the people that are still around today, their grandparents were out in India or wherever it might be. And so there is the people are genuinely inquisitive. And and I'm telling you, it's like having an Italian restaurant. My mother would never eat Italian food. You know what I mean? And you'll hear that from many people from other cultures. An Italian would never necessarily want Indian food. An Italian grandmother would not. Whereas what I find utterly heartwarming is coming into a Mowgli and you see people in their 70s and 80s eating butter chicken and rice. How humbling is that? It's crazy. But can you see the anthropology behind that? That goes back to the fact that you come from a nation that actually is not chippy, that is open-minded, be it from whatever dark source that might be. It might have been from empire, and do you think it is? But whatever it is, you embrace. And Mowgli took off in a way that she couldn't have taken off and in a city that was in Liverpool, which is where I started her, in a city that was just getting the dirty burger movement. And still that city allowed me to open a Indian street food, there's nothing like it, Indian street food restaurant predicated on a cold starter, the chat bomb. And there were queues around the block. And that city, and as a result, I could grow the way I've grown. Do you know what I mean? It's the first national Indian chain in that way. It's incredible, Yeah,
it is. And
starting that in 2014, that's ridiculous, isn't it? But that's
Britain. Well, because this is one of the things. The first. So there's a big marketing guy. I don't know if you've heard of him, Rory Sutherland. He's been on the podcast like 5 times. Worked at Ogilvy, and we talk a lot about obviously food, but kind of more through the marketing lens. And he was saying to me, that. He was kind of, I'd love you to kind of riff on this, he said that in Ireland there are kind of Indian restaurants, but it's way less, even though it's just over the Irish Sea. I worked for a brand for a bit called White Mouse, who were based in Dublin. He was like, mate, when they would come over to London, they were like, we need to go and eat an Indian restaurant. We have Chinese restaurants, but it's mad, as you say, like the absorption of it here specifically in this country, whether it's London or Liverpool, versus, and it doesn't really work in Ireland, even though they're just over the sea. So it's kind of, what would you say that
it's
is?
It's really interesting, you say it doesn't work in Ireland, so it depends what it is that is that. So there's 2 types of Indian, aren't there? There's the curry house, and that's great, and that we stand on the shoulders of the curry houses. Curry houses are those fairly heavy dishes that are full of onion, ginger and garlic. And I say that because they're quite tainting flavours. They're big flavours. You would only have it at 10 o'clock
Tainting flavours.
Tainting.
That's such a great way of putting it.
But it is. Do you know what? Yes. And this is what's really important about Mowgli and the way that Indians actually eat. And what I was telling you about the way that Hindus eat, we don't eat garlic and onion in the daytime. Nor do we eat meat in the daytime. So I did a video for Instagram recently. I went through to spend my time with the girls in the schools, and I went through their lunch boxes to see what they had. My God, it's entirely vegan, entirely vegetarian. It's niramish, which means it's not got onion and garlic. So therefore,
what's that word?
Niramish. But I'll tell you what's good about that is at lunchtime, and this is what I needed to build Mowgli around. The business people in the Liverpool CBD, Central Business District, do not want to come in and have a lunch that makes them then go and smell of garlic and onion, So a lot of the Mowgli menu does not have garlic and onion, and which is in accordance with the Hindu way of cooking. So when you say Indian food hasn't taken off in Ireland, It might be that curry house food hasn't taken off, because for something to take off for me, you need lunch trade and evening trade. I'm not interested in a restaurant that only trades in the evenings for 5 days a week. I want 7 days, I want daytime, and I want evening parts, you know, whatever that division might be. And to do that, you have to look at your demographic. And this demographic wants light, cleansing food at lunchtime. You know, so you come to Mowgli, you can have lunch, you can have something completely without onions and garlic, you can have something that is light. I'm very passionate. We don't cook with ghee. We don't cook with cream. I have a ban on that. No Indian cooks with ghee every meal. You know, we don't have tandoor ovens. That is not how this is how an Indian eats in their own home. And it's that lightness. You look at those girls' lunch boxes, that's what you will get when you come to Mowgli. So you basically eat Mowgli food and you're ready for it again in the evening. It's got to be light. You know, I pretty much ate in Mowgli every single day of my life, every single day. And I'd be ready to, and same with my family, they would eat there twice a day because it's our food. This is what I eat. But
I think your genius, Nisha, is one, you've got the food that you actually eat at home, but then it's the business savvy to be like, okay, well, we're going to launch this in this business district in Liverpool. Well, how do we make this work? You need, as you say, you need the lunchtime trade. Because you almost got the beautiful romance and heritage of the actual story of like, this is what we eat. And then actually to scale this to 27 sites is fucking wild. So what other, and I mean that in a good way. What are some of the other sort of business principles you've used, you think, to sort of get to this? Because I think it's really smart about, I think you said specifically give people what they want. And also I think sometimes people, a bit like the whole Henry Ford, if they wanted a faster horse, if they didn't want a car, they would want a faster horse sort of thing. I think people didn't necessarily know they wanted it. And then you showed them, actually, if it's lighter, there's no garlic and onion, it's not tainted spice.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you know? Here's my principle when it comes to so Mowgli's based on 4 pillars. You know, it's based on people, it's based on product, the food, and it's based on place and the way it looks. Financials is the other thing. It's got to add up. We've got to have great margins. The food, in terms of labour, it's got to make complete sense. There's no point me having a kitchen stock full of, you know, Indians that I have to hire from a certain area of Britain that can only that's no good at all. So I base this brand on me teaching, when I opened in Liverpool, teaching locals how to cook. So I taught while I was a barrister, I used to teach Indian cooking, and I've got 7 cookbooks out. That's what I did while I was a barrister. So my forte, whatever it is to teach. That's what I'm passionate. I will be dead in 20 years, 30 years. And the most important thing is that these recipes do not die with me. It's really important. So I dedicate my life to teaching Indian cooking, be it on Instagram, be it on an app, be it whatever. So I started this by teaching local Scousers who don't know how to cook curry, how to cook. So you're kind of neurologically platting them like my nan. If I was to stock my kitchen with only Indian chefs, I can tell you I'm an Indian chef. If an Indian hired me, I would go into their kitchen. I would change their food to make it taste like my grandmother's. So what you need is complete consistency, and just having that as a precept for when you're building an Indian restaurant, to only hire curry virgins, teach them how you cook so you get total consistency.
And you're not reliant on one.
I could never rely on it. I am the exec chef. Do you know what I mean? I could never rely on it.
But as in what I'm saying is not, you're not reliant on one, like, as in if only a few people know how to cook it. Like, it's almost like you
you're stuffed. Somebody goes off sick, you're stuffed. Somebody, you want to. So you need to completely, democratize is what you're thinking of, isn't it? The way of cooking. Exactly.
Interesting.
So that's one.
And that allows you to, because you could be in Edinburgh, you could be in Belfast, you could be in Amsterdam.
If Mowgli needed me to be in the kitchen, we'd be one restaurant, and I'd be dead by now. Do you know what I mean?
But also, I think what you said about teaching Scousers to cook, teach any nationality to cook your food. It's not just exclusive just to Indians who can cook it. Wow. Okay.
Exactly.
That almost builds the scale.
And so immediately you've got a click and play thing where you can go to Preston, or you can go to Sheffield, or you can go to Charlotte Street, which is where we are now, where there isn't a massive Indian community, because I'm passionate about teaching locals how to cook, because I'll be gone, and at least they can cook decent Indian food. Do you know what I mean? That's how it started. And then you've got to have, so, that's in terms of my product, the food has got to be addictive. So your point about, you can go on about how healthy it is, you can go on about how clean it is, but the truth is, it's that business about your food has got to be addictive. You've got to come and eat in Mowgli, and you've got to chase that dragon Every day, you got to want that flavor back. And it's not just because it's delicious, but it makes you feel good. It makes you feel clean. It makes you not feel stuffed. You've not got, reflux, all of those things. That's the addictive. You've got to have your food addictive. And then you've got to have diagnostic tools to tell me whether those things are still true, whether I am consistent and whether I am addicted. So every one of the things that you aspire to, so my people, I want them to feel purposeful, nourished and fulfilled.
Yeah.
And even if you break that down, I can tell you how.
Yeah,
my place has to feel like home from home. So people, product and place, and product has got to be addictive. For each one of those three limbs, I have a diagnostic tool that constantly tells me.
Sorry, what you say, people?
People got to feel nourished, fulfilled and purposeful. The diagnostic tool is we have things called contentment assessments, where every quarter or every half a year, we take every member of staff and we talk to them. And it's as simple as, are you happy? If you're not happy, why are you not happy? And where do you want to be and how can we help you get there? So that is your diagnostic tool to see are they content or not. In terms of place, the way that it looks, I have an army of mappers, Mowgli Aesthetics Police, that go in and, so we have a member of staff that we pay extra that goes in and checks the grout every day, that checks scuff marks every day, is the paint chipping every day? They've got a paint kit. So, and constantly to feed which bulbs are missing, if a bulb's out, it kills me. So I've got my aesthetics police, that's my diagnostic tool for place. For product, for food, my food has got to be addictive and completely consistent. Every aspect of it, was there enough of it? Was it hot enough? Were the seeds... So they have this training where I even show them the colour I want the seeds to be in the Daal. They've got to be fried to a certain colour. Were the seeds dark enough? That kind of thing. So you see, so we get these reports in. So we've got objective, voices as to, are we, the things that I hoped for the brand, are we reaching them?
So there's the marketing genius guy I've interviewed, Seth Godin, who says... So scale kills magic in the sense that sometimes you get so ubiquitous that it kind of you're not the cool place anymore. But he said some brands who really get it right, he used Shake Shack as the example, is actually where the scale becomes the magic. And that's exactly what you're the only person who's I've probably sat opposite who's kind of managed from almost from the jump, and maybe just be like, okay, we're going to get bigger, but how do we actually turn this not into like, oh, we're getting bigger, there's more sites, it's not turn the scale into the fucking magic.
Tell you what, growth is we must never be disdainful of growth. Every entrepreneur that I come across, food entrepreneur, you're right. Every food entrepreneur, I talk about growth because you create jobs. We've created the Mowgli Trust alongside. So for every restaurant I open, we donate about 40, 50 grand per annum to local cancer charities and children's hospices and world charities. Do you know what I mean? Growth is what keeps the economy going. We are the new thing, that we are the money that we bring into the economy. We are the creator of jobs. We create whatever 30, 40, 60 jobs per site that we open. You damn well need to grow. It's an amazing thing. So you should celebrate it. And also the very, the machinery behind that, i.e. are we going to lose consistency? For me, it's exciting because if we're getting it wrong in Edinburgh, I love that because we can change it, we can fix it. Do you know what I mean? It's really important.
And the more kind of insecure you are about it, the more secure you actually are. Because the more you're fucking paranoid thinking, is this going to work? The more you put these things in place.
Yeah. Do you know it's crazy? But those conversations I have where people come to me and complain are the most useful ones. And that's an Asian parent in me, I think. Honestly, I want to just hear how bad it is. Well, some of the, do you know what's really interesting?
The most egregious that were actually the best for you.
Well, the most egregious that were the best for me. God, I'm trying to think of something. I'll tell you what's been really interesting is feedback on the menu. So we had a brilliant dish on called the Kati roll, which was an omelette basically in a roti bread, and nobody was ordering it. It is a delicious dish. So I dared to go out to social media and say, look, what's with this? Do you not like it? Is it rubbish? And people wrote back and said, listen, nobody wants to go out for a meal and order an omelette. Do you know what I mean? It's the word omelette. So then we changed the name. I had a brilliant cabbage dish and I called it the cabbage tangle. Again,
changed the omelette one too.
I changed it to the Kati roll wrap.
Okay, so yeah.
So just take the word omelette out. But then in the description, it's still an omelette. Do you know, they still are seeing the word omelette, so whatever.
Yeah.
The Calcutta cabbage tangle. And again, wasn't selling. It's one of the most delicious dishes. And went out and they said, again, it's the word cabbage. Nobody wants to go and order the word cabbage on a menu. That kind of thing. And so you can really change within 12 hours, you can change that across all sites. But, things like, there's a lot of, so I built it really for gluten-free people because my best friend's a celiac. But, you know, people wanting more vegan dishes or more meat-free dishes. And there's part of me that thinks, you know, we've just got to eat authentically. And it's not always vegan, but actually it's really important to hear that. And if that's the way that, you know, if that's what we need is in fact to develop some more vegan dishes as opposed to putting some more chicken dishes on, I need to know that. I love people. The fact that they're even eating with us right now when you know, everyone is struggling. Everyone is thinking about how many times a week they want to eat out. The fact that they are even reporting back to me, and I do all my own social media, so I get every message. I mean, like, you know, last night I sent about 3 things into because somebody was talking about, you know, gluten-freeness or whatever. It really matters to me that people are eating. So feedback is a brilliant thing. Yeah.
Interesting. What are some of the other system or principles or like systems you've got in place to keep the magic alive?
Do you know what? You're only as good. Here's the thing. You're only as good as your last curry. And the experience that people have is only as good as the people that are serving. So if you've got happy chefs, you've got good food. And if you've got happy servers, you've got good service. So you know, from the day that I started running this business, I had one aim for Mowgli, and that was to enrich lives in the cities that we go to. So if you get your head around that, I built her to enrich lives in the cities that we go to.
You refer to her, to Mowgli as her.
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, God, totally. Because honestly, it's like I never wanted, it sounds so mad, I never wanted to do a restaurant. This is a crazy thing. I was a barrister. I was going to be a judge. You know, I was doing my judge exams, had a great salary, all of that, great prospects. This thing, I'm not kidding you. It's almost like it was a living thing, and it's almost like it was tugging my sleeve at night saying, are we going to do this? Are we going to, it's crazy. This idea of a restaurant, this idea of the food that I was teaching being peddled to people. So I was teaching this food and I could see that people loved eating it because it's nothing like a curry house. It's totally different.
Yeah.
And it was like a living thing, and I still think of it as a living thing. And that monkey, you know, you can see the monkey with the sort of sassy tail in the air looking for, it doesn't look at me, it doesn't look at us, it's looking at where it's going. It's really, it is a living thing to me, and she's miles ahead of us. Do you know what I mean? At restaurant 1, I would not have ever thought that we'd get to restaurant 2, never mind 27, and yet this thing marches ahead. And I think the secret is to have something that gets me out of bed, that gives me complete passion for. So honestly, in 11 years, we're coming over for 12 years now building Mowgli, I have never lost a single night's sleep about Mowgli, ever. Can you imagine that?
You've never lost?
Never lost, even through COVID, I've never lost a single night's sleep. Because I think it's that thing, if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. Because I was in control of it. And it's like you say, I'm the kind of person that, look, if it's going wrong, I love it because I can fix it, or I can find a way of fixing it. As long as my heart is in the... What would make me lose sleep is if you fall out with people, if you're making people unhappy. That, as a female human, that really freaks me out. I don't like that. I don't like discord. So having a principle that gets me out of bed, and that principle was, how do we build this to enrich lives in the cities that we go to, starting with our people? That's the secret to everything I do.
Just go through that again, sorry. So building this to enrich
lives in the cities that we go to, starting with our own people. So my main aim as, the leader of Mowgli for all of those years was, how do we make our people feel exceptional? Because if they do, if we make their lives a joy, if we make their workplace a place of solace, because everyone's got crap going on in their life. If your workplace is a place of solace, then we get really delicious food because our chefs love cooking it. The recipes are like paracetamol for them. They're all absolutely down to the microgram. So they just have to follow the recipe, but I need them to be content. And my servers need to feel absolutely loved by the business that they work for, and then the service is good. That is my main aim in life. So I knew my food's going to be good. I know my service is going to be good. I know that my environment is going to look good because my servers care about it, etc. If I can make their life brilliant. And so that was the aim. And that is why we send, wherever 30, 40 members of our team across to India, to Assam, to Rwanda, wherever it might be, to go and live a different life for a week, to come back and have the scales fall from their eyes. We want to make their life incredible. And so we have all of these benefits. You get your birthday off, and you get paternity leave if you get a dog, and there's all kind. You get Christmas Day off, you get Boxing Day off, you get New Year's Day off. It's extraordinary. You get an early dart on. This matters so much to our people, so we don't lose people, and as a result, we don't lose the magic.
take care of the people and the rest will kind of follow.
Completely. And there's nothing trite about that. It sounds a little bit jazz hands and, you just got to love your people. You've just got to bloody love your people. You've got to love your people because then they will create, but this is easy because I'm not asking the chefs to come up with new dishes. They've just got to follow my recipes and everything is cooked fresh every day on site. So 7:00 in the morning, you walk past Mowgli, it smells like my grandmother's house in Varanasi. Honestly, that's an amazing thing. And those chefs are worth their weight in gold. Damn right you look after your people. Damn right you make their lives incredible.
We're going to get some food shortly from Uber Eats, but so you're barrister and this thing is gnawing you in the middle of the night, saying, and you personify your business, which I love. I might start doing this with the podcast. Because I know exactly. We're singing from the same hymn sheet for sure. But what makes you cross the Rubicon and actually go and do it? Because it was the first one was set up on Bold Street, wasn't it?
I'll tell you what was I'll tell you the moment that happened.
Tell me the moment.
So I thought, okay, if I'm going to start looking at whether to do a business, and I recommend this to anyone. So I used to work in court obviously every day, and at lunchtime you took your wig and gown off, and I would go and sit outside restaurants and cafes and Greggs and see who was ordering what. Was there an appetite for curry? Because remember, there were no curry out. There was nothing like Mowgli. There was nobody eating. I put London aside, but there was nobody eating curry at lunchtime in the Northwest. So I was looking at things like, were there curried parsnip soups and who was buying them? And there was a little Chinese place open and, so I really did. It was like doing a GCSE business project, were people buying a drink? How much money could I make? What price, what rent would I need to be paying to make any money from this? And then I thought, okay, so what kind of buildings would this be? Where would I put it?
Sorry to interrupt. But were you logging this down or like?
Yeah, complete. Oh God, yes. So it was like a little project, So men.
Excel spreadsheet.
It's really interesting. So high-vis, men in high-vis outside. The Chinese men in high-vis outside the Greggs. So they were eating heavier food. The men in the high-vis were eating heavier food. Therefore, you've got to think about what is my price point. So if I want men in high-vis to come and eat in my restaurant, it's got to be a certain price point. Do you know what I mean? It's got to be affordable, which was always going to be the case.
Keep going.
And then women were ordering sort of lighter food. Everyone was buying a drink. So you would always sell a drink with you. Nobody's just buying food. They'd always go in and buy a drink. The meal deal was not such a big deal then. Back then it really wasn't such a big deal back then. Spice was a thing. So things like a tikka masala wrap, I wouldn't eat that if you paid me. That is a thing. Oh my God, that is. And you just think, okay, and that back in 2001, Robin Cook said that, the nation's number one dish is chicken, the national dish of Britain is chicken tikka masala. So you're kind of on that and you think, oh my gosh, it might even be true. So maybe they'd be up for this. And the fact that I just had queues of people coming to my classes, I think people really do love this food. So then it was about, is a premises, and you push a door and, if the door opens, it's right. So I parked up on this one road called Bold Street in Liverpool, and there was one building available. It was next to a cafe that I loved, and there was a sign on it to let. So I rang the landlord just to see what might rent be. What are we talking here? He was 5 minutes away. He came and met me. I walked in there, and there was that epiphany where you just think, this is right. This is not... It's a juggernaut that you step onto at that point, and there was no going back. I walked in and I thought, A, this is right. B, this is so exciting. I cannot bloody tell you, this is so exciting. And that excitement has not left me 11, 12 years on. My hands now talking to you are kind of itching with excitement. I love it. I love it.
It's fascinating.
You got to love it, and I think that's what keeps the magic going, and it's what keeps you as an ambassador, and it's what flows down, I think.
What's been the boldest thing you've ever done? If it's born in Bold Street, what's the boldest decision you've ever made in business?
So the boldest decision was, and the roof over my head is still invested in Mowgli. I'm not secure.
Yeah.
So when I started it, we were going to lose our house, and I still had to do it. So what happens is there comes a point where you can take fewer cases because you're building a business. So we were fewer cases as a barrister.
Yeah. Okay.
So I wasn't working as much. I wasn't earning as much. And there was a point where my brother had to lend me like 500 quid for pans. You were looking down the back of the sofa for coins, and we would have lost the house if it didn't work. That's everything, isn't it? That's everything. That is the whole, you gamble the whole of your life on this. That's the thing.
There's something about, again, this is, what Santi was telling me the other day. Also, I had dinner with Ashley Palmer-Watts, who does the Devonshire.
Yeah, great.
And he was amazing.
You get me a table there one day.
Oh, yeah.
Jeez.
But his son's in ballet.
Yeah.
And really...
A ballet dancer?
Ballet dancer.
Wow.
and obviously Ash was at the Fat Duck when it got 3 stars. Then we were talking about this idea of, again, like when you feel so insecure, you go all in, and it makes you secure. And it's like this, almost like there's a gun to your head. You'll make it work.
There's a gun to your head. Do you know what? For me, it's a lot of faith as well. I've got this rudder where I just sort of. It sounds crazy, but I don't. Do you ever watch Lord of the Rings or read it? And there's this point where Gandalf and the hobbits are sitting in the Mines of Moria, and they're sitting on a rock, and there are 3 passages. They don't know which one to go down. They sit there for about 3 days, and then suddenly Gandalf says, "You know what? It's that one because that one smells least offensive." And I think there is an eternity set into the hearts of men where you just feel that this is the right door, and I have enough faith to think it is, and I haven't been proven wrong yet. It just felt like the right door, like there was a light in my life that was flashing above this Chinese restaurant on Bowl Street that was saying, "This is the one. You got to."
Did you have to find it, or did it find you?
Well, I pulled up on the street, and then it fortuitously happened to be the one building that's next to me, next to the one cafe that I love on that street. And then you phone the number, when it falls into place, and the guy's 5 minutes away, and he comes and he's dead nice, and you walk in, and it just, the configuration of the building is amazing because it means you could have 2 people on and they can see the whole restaurant, as opposed to somewhere like this. Do you know what I mean? That where just everything falls into place, and you think this feels, and that's how I've chosen every site since. Is you go in and is that light flashing. It's so magical and mythical.
It really is. So my friend owns Black Bear Burger. Stu, absolute gent of a legend, just amazing human being. In Exmouth Market near Farringdon, there was a dirty burger, which I think was an offspawn of Soho House. Exact same site, like literally the exact same site. Same road. He goes in, and it's basically a burger chain, right? Absolutely their best-selling site. And I think there is this weird ethereal magic you put into somewhere. And again, we've talked about a lot of practical things, but we've also talked about spiritual things. I think there's a spirit to a restaurant that you can't fucking...
We might sound like absolute arses talking like
I
this.
don't care.
But doesn't it make life magical? And I will die under this mad... we might be the maddest people on earth. Doesn't it make life amazing? So, 100%. No matter how tough things get, you just think, this was meant to be. As long as your heart is in the right place and you're building something for the right reasons, you know what I mean? So, which I've constantly got to, that is my precept, is that how am I making people's lives better in the cities that we go to with Mowgli? As long as you're doing the right thing, then having that serendipitousness is just, it makes life just feel magical. Which might make us the biggest fools on earth, but I will die happy.
Let's get some food, and what we can do is use these as a kind of a launch pad to explore, everything we've discussed, but I also want to talk about delivery, because I think this is another example of scale and magic. For people listening, we're holding... I don't know how
gorgeous is this?
It's
packaging?
Gorgeous.
This is the packaging for Mowgli's delivery. So this is a big thing for us. We've just started delivery. It's a relatively new thing. I've been very precious, so I was only going to do it if it was completely right. And it starts with the way that it looks. I mean, I'm so proud of this packaging.
So talk me on, like, again, for listeners, it's
dark,
people who are listening
green mat.
It's dark.
So even this green, right? This green, it really matters to me. When I started Mowgli, and remember I said I wanted it to be a cut off. I thought it would fail. So this kind of Norwegian forest green was really. I didn't want an Indian jewel green. I didn't want anything that said curry. I wanted this dark, noble Norwegian forest green, and this is exactly the colour of the boxer. So I made it with that, and it's got the gold monkey on the top. And then, we've got an in-house designer who's brilliant called John Lees, and he's, designed the stickers for it and things like that, so you know what the food is.
It's just those little touches, because I feel like with delivery, it can get, like, it gives you way more reach. But how do you, again, this is a Stu thing. He was saying to me that the chip, do you want to...
Yeah, just pile it on. It doesn't matter if there's
whack it down, and then obviously we can edit this. I'll take it out, and then we just get some nice and forks. And then, sweet. Happy days. Sorry, I was speaking to Stu, and he was saying with delivery, often his chips would go cold.
Soggy, cold,
Or soggy, And so what he used the packaging to, he's like, again, so how do you solve a problem? We could just look at this as Okay, well, it's fucked.
Yeah,
What he
yeah.
did is he turned the packaging into like a storytelling vehicle.
Yeah.
So it says almost like managing expectations.
Yeah.
As you should in restaurants.
Yeah.
But it says, bear in mind, these chips are probably going to be soggy and cold.
Yeah.
So straight away, the customer's like, oh,
Yeah.
But then he goes, here's 2 ways to get them as close as they can to the restaurant, which is, either put in the air fryer, whatever, or the oven. And I think what you guys are doing here is just really thinking about how you keep the premiumness of the brand.
Yeah.
But how
They've got that's the absolute key. Do you know? I mean, we'll only deliver dishes that will stand the journey. So, so I'm really, it's fine.
Right. So what have we got?
So that's mother butter chicken.
Wow. I'll get these out, and then what we can do is just talk about the genesis of these and the story behind them. Gunpowder chicken.
Gunpowder chicken, yeah. Okay.
Let's start with so just quickly run through what we've got here.
Right.
This is a nice panoply of gorgeous food looking right at me.
Yeah, it is. So this is pretty typical. This is what you would have in an Indian home. So for instance, we've got our rice, which is made with black cumin seeds. You can see that they're really, you've got to fry your cumin seeds. Then we got dal, and you remember I was talking about these dishes that are completely without garlic and ginger. These things that are the cornerstone of the Indian home kitchen. This is it, temple dal. And I call it temple because it is almost like a holy dal. It's what priests would eat during prayer ceremonies. So it's completely clean. It's the food of monks. It is a real monk dal. Made with red lentils. So it's the most simple, cleansing, addictive thing. So many of our members of staff, what they crave is temple dal at lunch because they can eat what they want. That this is what they crave.
Yep.
And this is made with red lentils. It's made with cumin seeds. It's made with a bit of lemon, turmeric. So all these ingredients are so good for you. I can't tell you. Really strong turmeric's just great for you. Green chilies, coriander, really, really light, fresh dal. Then you would always
in India, when would they would have that?
Right.
throughout?
You would have this throughout the day. There is not an Indian fridge that wouldn't have a bowl of dal in it. That is what you would have for breakfast. You would have it for lunch. You would have it at every meal. You have dal. Then there's a fish dish. This is my Auntie Geeta's prawn curry. So I'm originally from Calcutta. We're Bengali. That's my language. And we're the fish eaters of India. So we're very passionate about fish and prawns. Now this prawn curry...
Calcutta on the coast.
Calcutta has got rivers going through it.
Okay, cool.
It's where all the sailors were. So lots and lots of fish. That is cooked with, it's very interesting. It's a combination of tomato and English mustard. English mustard is one of the most ancient Indian ingredients that there is. You call it English. How mad is that?
Wow.
Can I just tell you this?
What's the anthropology of that?
So what it is mustard seeds, the little black seeds.
Yeah.
If you grind them, they become yellow mustard paste. They become like Coleman's English mustard. In India, before chilies came to us in the 16th century, the Portuguese brought chilies to India. We didn't have chilies or tomatoes up to that point. Most of the world didn't.
The Portuguese brought...
They brought them from South America. So nobody had chilies. Only South America had chilies.
Well, Portugal trying to colonise...
Yeah, so they went across to South America and then they brought them across to Goa. They brought chilies across to India. Wow. Up to that point, India was using two things to make their food zingy. One was black pepper and one was mustard, English mustard seeds ground down, and that is what is in that prawn curry. So when you taste it, English mustard, when it's cooked with tomato, is one of the most synergistic things you can ever taste. So that sauce...
the English mustard, sorry.
Yeah.
The English brought mustard to India?
No, the Portuguese brought mustard. Forget the word English. Sorry.
Okay,
The Portuguese brought chilies to India. But before we had chilies, so right the way up to the 16th century, up to that point, we had no chilies. We were using English mustard paste or mustard paste, the yellow mustard paste, to give our food that zing.
Yeah.
So this is a really ancient Calcuttan way of cooking that. So the sauce, if you try the sauce, you'll see that there's this real zing that almost dives into your endorphins, and that is this combination of tomato and English mustard. It's a really unique flavour.
It's delicious. What about this bad boy?
That is a bad boy because that is one of our number one. That's sort of our number one seller. That is mother butter chicken. Mother butter chicken.
Yeah.
It's got fenugreek in it. Fenugreek is like crack. Fenugreek is called kasuri methi, and I cook it with that because there is something about that is so addictive, and actually calorifically that is still really not bad at all. It's really good.
What are the calories in that?
Is that about 300?
That is, tell you. 330 roughly.
Yeah.
That's a sandwich, that.
Sandwich.
It's less than the club sandwich, yeah.
That's what's mental.
Yeah, that's what's mental.
That is mental, how people will go and smash nothing. I mean, I love it.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Oh, you can't
banging.
beat it.
Yeah, it's banging.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. But you could have that for
Yeah.
less calories, and there's a load more of it. So that's our biggest seller.
What's the history of the
Butter chicken is what I tell you what. Butter chicken is if you're really going to have a really nice meal. In India, we didn't really have restaurants. We had hotels, right?
what do you mean?
Well, they didn't really have restaurants. So whenever I grew up, sort of in and out of India, until you had street food stalls that would do one thing really well. They'd sell one thing really well, like they say this gunpowder chicken. They just sell that, or they sell just chat bombs. But it was hotels that had the restaurants in them. So they weren't really
Wasn't that like
restaurants.
London at one point as well? Like it's not as
Yeah, no, you're so right.
Yeah.
That was everywhere. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly
yeah.
right. We didn't
Yeah.
have nursing homes; they used hotels.
Yeah.
So, and if you went to a hotel and you want the top dish, you would go for butter chicken because it's got butter in it. That is such a exquisitely elitist ingredient in a way, to just throw it into a curry. So, that's why that was one of the most beloved dishes in the hotels. And it's got this spice in it called fenugreek that honestly is one of the most addictive spices. It's also very good for you, but it is a really haunting, incredible spice that makes you want to go back for more. It's the instant flavour of serious curry.
Yeah.
So that's what that
absolutely
is.
Stunning, yeah. It's
And
delicious.
then gunpowder chicken. So gunpowder chicken is something, while I was building Mowgli, I was on the bones of my backside. So we didn't have a penny to rub together. Everything I had, every penny and all my savings were invested into my restaurant, building that first restaurant. And the girls used to love, my kids used to love, that popcorn chicken from KFC.
Yeah, delightful.
Yeah, and we literally couldn't afford it. So I made my own, and it's made with gram flour, completely gluten-free. So it's made with gram flour, garam masala, onion, garlic and ginger paste, and spices, and I made it, and it was a big hit. So I put it on the menu, and again, it's one of our best sellers. So that's my gunpowder chicken. Then you got the fenugreek fry. So you'd always, with an Indian meal, have some form of of potato. Potatoes always cooked with turmeric. Always cooked with turmeric. So that you're very sweet to say that. You're very, and you're eating out the takeaway dishes, but those dishes are so beautiful that I'm quite proud of them.
Why now with delivery? And because obviously, like we talked about a lot today, like hyper premium brand, scale kills magic, or scale can kill magic. Why now? And like, what have you put in place to keep the magic alive?
Because that is an interesting thing, isn't it? Because scale, does, as me and you have discussed, and we truly believe, scale does not kill magic. Lack of heart kills magic. That's what kills magic.
And private equity.
Yeah. So it's it is lack of heart, lack of authenticity. That's what kills magic. So, and why now? So do you know what was really interesting? When we decided to go on to delivery, and the reason I decided to go on to delivery is quite honestly that business about enriching lives in the cities we go to. Not everyone can get out. And if they want to eat this food, it's my duty to deliver it to them. I have held off up to this point because I needed to know that the food would transport well, that there was an appetite for it. So, and what happens is I've been building, we've been building. So we've now up to the point of 27. And building a delivery element to your business is like building about 4 restaurants, the amount of manpower that it takes. So while we've been busy building, I didn't, it wasn't the priority to develop that delivery link. But it's really interesting. As I said, I've got kids in their 20s. That is how they eat. The most exciting thing about Mowgli for them is that they can now get it delivered. This is my own bloody kids. They can get it. They were so proud of it going on to delivery. I can't tell you. So it was at that point where you just think, people want it. If people want this food, it's an honour for me to be able to provide it for them. And that is why it's right that, it had a bit of breathing space. Between builds, we could put the delivery in, and that's what it took.
And why exclusively with Uber Eats?
Well, do you know, so here's the thing. Remember, my homeland is in the north. I've got 2 restaurants in London. I want more restaurants in London. But I built this in areas of the country that need social capital. I started in Liverpool, Manchester, Sheffield, Preston. Outside of London is Mowgli. And that is where Uber Eats is. I've got a real passion for these brands that are kind of northern centric. And Uber Eats is great for the north. That's what is known in the north. So that I'm very passionate about. That means the world to me. Finding a partner that's got the same sort of roots as me.
And would you, in terms of, I know we've talked about, do you ever worry, because I think a lot of brands, Nisha, you've got this ability to kind of look into the future and be incredibly prudent and like, as we've said, like keep the magic alive. But do you worry about it, like not eviscerating the premium experience? Like how do you use it to actually make the experience even, how are you using it as almost like a marketing power as well? Because can you use Uber Eats and the, it's almost tentacles around the north to pull people more in? Is that how you think about that?
Do you know what's really important to me?
Like driving trial is what I'm trying to say.
It's really important that people, that we don't lose covers. It's really important that people still come out and eat. I think people still do want to come out and eat. Now, we are dog friendly, we are child friendly, but for those times when you can't get out there, I still need you to get your Mowgli fix. I think these two things are symbiotic. I don't think one depletes the other at all. I think, going back to that point, you are only as good as your last curry, and your food has to be addictive. If you are addicted to mother butter chicken and gunpowder chicken and you want it, you will either go out and get it or you will order it in if you can't go out and get it. But people like to put their shoes on and get a blouse on and go and eat out. So I'm not worried about that. What I think is most important is that if you want this food, and I am passionate about it being really this is healthy, good for you. This is all cooked from scratch.
Yeah.
Every chat that goes out in the delivery, all the chat, it's made within a minute or two of it going in the container. It is all completely fresh, and it's that business about Mowgli lives to enrich lives by giving them really good food, and if they want it on their sofa, they can have it on their sofa, or they can have it in the restaurants. So I don't think about it diminishing.
No, the symbiotic relationship and how their threads woven together to the same place. So I had a look on your Instagram, and I really believe like restaurants, when they're done well, a bit like a Snap Baines, is like fiction and cinema for your taste buds and senses, and you can really create that. Yeah. I'd love to start with books, and then we can sort of pull into and swim into the sort of the streams of restaurants. But I love reading. I read every day. I write as well. And you had a quote, which I'm going to read now, which I think encapsulated the absolute magic of books. I'd love to kind of start with that. But you said, I think it was about books to read before you die. You said, this is the ultimate escapism if you want to take your mind to a tranquil isolation chamber. I mean, that's banging. Pick one of these up, and when you open your eyes, the world will look new and smell green and fresh. These books are deep breaths for your soul, and I just such a gorgeous way of putting it. But I would love to know, like, what are some of the books you've read that have really kind of transformed the way you see the world, and how you kind of operate in the world?
Oh my God! Well, so honestly, I have at any one point about 8 books on the go. I drown in it's my big passion, really my big passion. I mean, one of them at the moment. So, for instance, every night I go to bed listening to Samuel Pepys's Unabridged Diary. Have you ever done that?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God, you'd love it, because in terms of food, it's interesting as well. So historical fiction, everything.
So sorry, just for Samuel Pepys listeners.
Samuel Pepys, he was a diarist who wrote in the 1600s, so between 1600s and 1700s.
Yep.
So through the plague and all of that, and he just wrote every day what happened in his life. What he ate, how he slept, how he picked the nits out of his wigs, where he hid his cheese, how he cheated on his wife. It is just fascinating. His kidney stones, all of this. Anyway, so it's really immersive. It takes you back into anything that takes me to somewhere else, back in time. Some of those books like Orbital or whatever it might be, The Martian or whatever, that take you to outer space. Incredible. Some really seminal books for me. So I don't know how much you like fantasy. I do love Tolkien. I bloody love Lord of the Rings. I also therefore love C.S. Lewis. And he wrote a book called The Screw Tape Letters that has been one of the most...
Screwed.
The Screw Tape Letters.
Screw Tape Letters, yeah.
And the Screw Tape Letters are letters from a senior devil to a junior devil about how to really mess someone up. Wow. So he's giving instructions to a junior devil as to how to really... You've each got a patient as a devil.
Yeah.
How do you really mess this person's life up? So his uncle is writing to him. That is life-changing, phenomenal book. So I think these...
Why is it life-changing? Because I really believe like some fiction books are...
Like what?
So I'm rereading H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
I think that's wild because one, it's basically space invasion, but they're running away from these aliens in horse and cart.
Yeah.
Which is, again, I think that the books are both transportative but also teleportative, if that's even a word. Like, you can be like, go suddenly into the 1800s or 1600s, and then you walk down the street down here in Fitzrovia and you're like, wow, this is new. Yeah. But he's got a really interesting thing where he basically says like how the aliens are... Well, so the aliens are brains inside machines, and he says something which is, surely ants think of that when they look at humans in trains, and he just, the way he kind of subverts things, and aliens would suck the blood out of humans, and then he's sort of saying, well, look at the way we slaughter animals. Surely we're more disgusting than that. Like, it just, I think, but you can only do that through fiction. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And I don't know. And then also he predicted stuff. He predicted the tank. He predicted. Was a massive foodie, but really interesting. Like, that book is, I love.
Because it's otherworldly, because it talks about a different realm, doesn't it? It talks about something way beyond our imagination.
Yes.
So this is the thing, isn't it? That's what you love about, that's why you probably like fantasy, isn't it? Is that there are more things, to heaven and earth than are dreamt of in our philosophy. It's beyond what's on earth.
Yes.
Space or spiritualism, whatever it is, it's some, wizards or demons or whatever.
Yeah, it's just that imagination. I think we're so peppered with like the hamster wheel of dopamine, of Instagram and stuff like that. And I get pulled into it, like as soon as, but at trying at night or in the morning, just have a read for a bit, because it just settles things down. But I do think it pushes your imagination. So when you actually go to work, you can be really way more creative.
Yeah.
So what did you, that Devil's book?
Yeah.
What did that?
The Screwtape Letter.
Yeah, like what did that teach you?
So what that is about, how do you
correct? A little bit closer.
Yeah,
can you Sorry. I'll be fine.
Let me move my chair closer.
Yeah.
It's how do you corrupt the human spirit? How do you corrupt the human conscience? And to do that, you've got to really understand how people take. And it's this lovely precept throughout the whole thing, which is that we're all born good. And so before I did restaurants, I was a child protection barrister for 20 years.
Yep.
And what I learned from that is that you're all born lovely, really, and it's your parenting that it's completely down to nurture. It's not about nature at all. 100% it is down to the way that you have been raised and those influences on you. Arguably up to the point of 14 months old is the point at which there's plasticity in the neurons. So we're all born good, and what is it that corrupts us? So every emotion is based on something good. Even the most heinous crimes, the kernel of that is a kind of good emotion. It might be because it's pleasure seeking or thrill seeking, which in itself is not bad. It's then how you achieve it, that kind of thing. So it's that fine slicing of the human nature that's dead interesting. Rewriting the way that you understand the psyche of humans, and then how you corrupt it, and then the responsibility for you as a friend, as a parent, as an aunt, an uncle, whatever it is, to not mess people up around you. Not torture them, not gaslight them.
And also, I think it's like it's finding the good in people. So Abraham Lincoln's got a quote which I love, which is, "I don't like this man, I must get to know him better."
Yeah.
And it's like, because even I saw this today, right? I was going to the gym 6 a.m. this morning, and there was a bloke pulled into the petrol garage, and you've got like, say, 3 pumps here. The guy wouldn't move, and he was going. The guy behind him was going absolutely mental. Yeah. It was just like even parking in front. Yeah. The guy at the station was laughing. And you saw my gut reaction was like, "Oh, what a dick," right? But then actually I was like, you don't know what's going on in his life.
Which one was a dick? The guy that was pulled up or the guy that was revving?
Well, essentially both of them. But the guy
revving is a knob, yeah.
He is, essentially. Yeah. But it was like, but then you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I think that's a really interesting thing, is what you say, Nisha, about like being good.
Yeah.
And then it's the nurture.
It is exactly that. Do you know what's so interesting about that is you are so right. That you've obviously got such a good heart in that way that you're seeking. Who knows what his life has been like? It might be that his daughter's in hospital.
Exactly.
And you've got to. Otherwise, you will get pulled into hatred. You'll get pulled into thinking that everyone around you is a knob and they're there to frustrate you. And it's a real balm for the soul if you don't have to look for the negative in people. If you can extrapolate whatever they are doing backwards into, every time somebody drives past me and they're being a dick, that's what I think. I think your nan must be in hospital. God bless you. But it just takes that cortisol out of your body, and we could all do with less of that cortisol.
Balm for the soul is a stunning way of putting it. We'll get on to the restaurants. I just follow my curiosity.
So it's just a quick one. So on your Instagram feed, what comes up on your Instagram feed? What is your feed like? Is it food? Is it just all food?
It's pretty much all food. Yeah, because it's basically chefs and food.
Yeah.
And
what's the other weird thing that might come up?
Girls sometimes.
Really? You're hilarious. Oh my God. You said it out loud, didn't you?
Yeah. I'm not going to.
How did you search girls. You just put
No,
girls
it
into
just
girls into a search engine, and then go.
I'm just being brutally honest with you. I'm not going to say.
It's so interesting
Yeah.
because you're human, and I need to know
I'm not going to
this.
say what fluffy cats, because that's just not true.
That's so funny because because I'm like an old woman. So for me, it's interior design, fluffy cats,
Yeah,
and food.
interesting. Yeah.
It's
so
not
interesting.
boys, for God's sake. You'd want to just wipe the chin, wouldn't you?
But then I do think some feeds can play onto that cortisol, which is you're basically looking at your hand, i.e. the phone.
Yeah.
And it's you're just slamming your cortisol like the whole time. And that's one of the reasons I love doing this, because there's no phone, you're just in the moment.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, sorry. So other books that you really like, mainly because we'll go and read these.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So do you know at the moment? So I'm going to do a review on the next 3 that I've read. I've just read something called The Names. I don't know if you've heard of it. Have you heard of it?
What's it called?
It's called The Names by Florence Knapp.
Yeah.
And it is a child that is born, and it's what happens to this child if you give it one of 3 names. So it's got an abusive father, and one of the names is naming it after the father.
Right.
Then there's this kind of bohemian name that it's given. It's how his life would pan out had he been given 3 names. It's an interesting one. Just read a brilliant one. This sounds mad. It's called One Impossible Thing, and it's by Belinda Bauer, and it's about. This is where it just takes you back in time and down a little weird rabbit hole that you wouldn't go down in love books like that. And it's about, the Victorian egg collectors. It sounds mad, but these people would go and collect these weird eggs that guillemots would lay. And like some of them would be bright red. It's a bird, yeah. It's actually out, and I've just read that. I couldn't put it down. Absolutely amazing. The thing I'm reading at the moment is about Thomas More. The whatever Tudor martyr. And it,
No, I don't.
No, anyway, it takes you.
What
back.
did he do?
Well, he fell out with Henry VIII, and Henry VIII had him killed because he stood in the way of the divorce with Catherine Aragon, whatever it is. But he was the son of a butcher, and I think he was the son of a butcher, and. But that I just think is dead interesting. Is how do you go from those humble beginnings to being up in the courts or whatever? So that's what I'm reading at the moment. And then, my God, what else have I read recently? But I've got a million historical thing. I've just finished something on the Anglo-Saxons. Find that dead interesting.
Oh, interesting.
Do you not like history?
No, I do. It's kind of.
You maybe got to get over your girl stage, and then you can do history.
No,
You've got too much going on now.
So I like more into if I'll read like biographies.
Yeah.
So like I just read this year I read one about Napoleon.
Yes, did you?
Which was really, who's the British historian who did all of Churchill's stuff, very most British guy you could imagine, like so posh but speaks amazingly.
Oh God, not David, not Lacey, is it?
No, the name escaped me, but he's got this massive book on Napoleon and like the French Revolution.
Why did you read that?
Well, that's a good question.
I tried a book on Napoleon. I couldn't understand it. I got like a third.
Yeah, no, because he actually writes in quite clear. He writes really simple. He's not trying to be clever, because I think sometimes when you're that academic, you can.
Yeah.
I think the intellectual tries to be clever, whereas the artist tries to simplify as the actual message goes in, and he's really good at that. And but he talks all about it's more about the character of him versus kind of this event happened, and I think that's really interesting because you get into the depth of the person. There's an amazing book by Churchill's. It's in chronological order, all of Churchill's speeches. Yeah, which is just good because he just writes amazingly well. Yeah. And then more, it's actually studying history is more like, or absorbing it is more through podcasts.
Do you listen to Short History?
I listen to The Rest is History. Yeah. With whoever they are. And then there's this new comedy sketch by this comedian called Finn Taylor. Yeah. Hilarious. Yeah. And they will, I don't know how, it's almost imagine if like Mock the Week kind of merged with a history program. So it's hilarious, but they go into like, they have that kind of only way a comedian could look at it from, instead of looking at like, this is what happened in facts, or this was the character, it's like, just how absurd is that in this society today?
So it's kind of banter, is it? Historical banter?
Historical banter, but also like, I believe like history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. And you sort of...
God, you've got so many ace phrases. I should write these down.
Sorry, no, but I do think that, and I think when you read history, you just see the patterns, don't you?
Yeah.
I don't know, what sort of... So you've read Anglo-Saxon stuff.
Oh, God, and historic... What in terms of... Do you know who I'm a bit obsessed with, I find very interesting is, and I think it comes from my background, is the Brontes at the moment. I'm going through a massive Bronte stage because they had a pretty messed up dad. He was a
Right.
pretty brutal dad. And you think, what is it that led to you raising these 3 girls to write these novels at the age of whatever, 17, 18 that they might have been? Then they died before they saw the success, Emily did really, and stuff like that. It's really interesting. So that, I think anything where you're looking into the background of someone to understand what it is that made them the way that they are, what is it about parenting? I find that really interesting. What is it, what kind of austere childhood have you had that made you so diligent? So I've got children in their 20s.
Yeah.
And they are the most laid back, easygoing, no hunger, no anxiety, flaccid children.
Wow.
And it's because I grew up as an immigrant. So here's the thing. My parents came over with £2 in their pocket, the usual story. Anyway, it's not usual for you, but it's usual for Indians.
Yeah.
Total paucity, and you were raised to think if you did not work hard and achieve more than your neighbours, then you'll be thrown off the face of Britain. I was born here,
Yeah.
So I was born with real hunger and anxiety, real anxiety. But my girls have had none of that. And as a result, they don't have the drive that I have. It's dead interesting. But do you know what? That's not I don't think that's a bad thing. But it's really interesting to see how parenting molds someone. And it's not always good to give someone the best. Well, no, sorry, that's a lie. It is always good to give them a really good
Talk to me
child.
about what most British people don't understand about that immigrant mindset. And there's something that Sat was talking about, like growing up like that, because he worked in his dad's newsagents. His dad was brutal on him, and he got this. And his kind of echoing what you're saying, Nisha, is this kind of just not pent up, this kind of always on mild anxiety, which actually forces you to get better. Like describe your childhood.
So I'll tell you my childhood is that I don't know where Sat was raised, if he was raised in an Asian community, but what happened in the 1960s is Enoch Powell went out to India and said, we need doctors in the UK. So my parents came over as doctors in 1968, and the only towns that would have Asian doctors were the towns that no white doctor would go to. So they were really working class, really quite impoverished, challenging communities. So my parents came over to that. They were the only Indians in the village. And so my earliest...
Sorry, where was this?
This was in a little town called Skelmersdale. It was a new town. It was the Overspill from Liverpool.
Okay.
And so my earliest memories were of a brick coming through the window, while I was playing in the nursery, whatever, and fire bombs and racist graffiti, and you would just be spat at every single day at school. You would just nobody would want to touch you because they think the brown, it's really interesting, they think the brown would transfer onto their skin. And my children who came to go to school at the age of 3, whatever, in, 2003, 2004, exactly the same thing. It's really interesting. Little children didn't want to touch them because they thought they would turn brown. It's very interesting, isn't it? Those, whatever you might call them, those racist or those fear of the other, that concept of fear of the other is across generations. Nobody's taught them to say that or to think that. That has just come.
Do you think that's a hereditary thing?
Well,
based off what you're saying about that book.
Do you know, it's really interesting because is there something in all of us that fears someone that looks different, and I'm wondering about how brown people feel about white people. As a brown child, are you scared of somebody white? I don't know. Or as a black child, are you scared of somebody white? But it's definitely the case, just from what I've told you, that white children are scared of turning brown, of this transference of brown onto you. It's very interesting, isn't it? And I don't quite know why that is. It's not all of the children that were like that with them, but there was some. Maybe they came from a background where that was seen as other or whatever. I don't know. And that's why why having this cosmopolitan society and having, these, and I think you see it in London more than anywhere else, these completely mixes of race is so important. So we're raised to see them, to see different colours of human as different levels of melatonin is completely normal. It's really important. So so very often you speak to anyone really my age, my generation, Indian, they'll have the same story, which was your crucible of your emotional forging was that kind of abuse and just wanting to be liked. And so, it doesn't make you hard. That didn't make me or my brother or my parents hard. It made you desperate for people to like you and not hate you. And the way that you can do that very often is through food. As Indians, the best thing in our armory was the ability to feed people, because that's what we do. We're very much feeders and copious amounts of curry or whatever it is that you can cook really easily. So it makes you slightly obsequious, if anything. It makes you just...
What does that mean,
obsequious? Just, desperate for someone to like you, bending over backwards. Flattering and all of that, desperate for people to like you. So that, you kind of go around with your head slightly down, you feel unworthy. And I don't think there's anything wrong in that, because we're all unworthy in some way. And that goes back to your point, that there's total parity amongst humans, and some of us are a bit worse at things, some of us are a bit better. But you do feel as though every time somebody smiles at you and does eye contact, you think, oh my God, they like, especially after things like 9/11. I remember, so we were it was great. And then 9/11 happened. And then anyone that was brown, I remember going to a sandwich shop the next morning, and this woman just said, "Are you all right, love? Yeah, do you want a sandwich?" And I thought, oh my God, I love you. You're doing eye contact with me. Oh my God, after what's just happened. Isn't that crazy? And it was like starting again back into, 9/11, 2001, it was like starting again. I wasn't good enough. And every time somebody smiled at me, I thought, oh my God, that's amazing. You don't hate me. Yeah, it's so weird, isn't it? And then what effect does that have on you? Keeps you pretty humble. Do you know what I mean? Just like with the restaurants and things like that, the fact that people would want to come and eat Indian food, and these are my family recipes, and every time I see somebody putting a spoonful of that dal in their mouth, you think, my God, I'm so lucky. So when people complain, when we get it wrong, there is not a bone in my body that thinks they're in the wrong. Every sinew of me thinks, what did we get wrong? The fact that you've even bothered to complain means a lot, actually, to me, that you're that bothered.
Interesting.
Yeah. So you don't get cocky about things, really. You constantly feel you're only as good as your last.
So, that's what I was going to ask you. So in terms of the kind of one hand, that obsequious, or that desire to be pleased and validated, on the other side of that is this kind of innate, as you say, sort of anxiety, immigrant mindset, hunger. How has that been a strength and maybe a challenge as you've built this Mowgli empire? Because
you're very good at this, aren't you? Like Freud, you. How has it been a strength? I think humility is a strength.
Yeah.
And I think grace is a strength. There's things like grace, humility, compassion, kindness. Those things are the ultimate strength. That's what we live for. So here's my belief in life. I believe that we exist to make the people around us feel better, to make them feel better, to make them walk taller, to feel better.
Yep.
That's what I honestly believe. So I've got a really strong faith. I'm a Christian. That's what I believe, yeah? That's what we're here for, is to love your neighbour, whoever that neighbour is. Doesn't matter who it is. It's about love, really. And being kind of brought down, brought down, or being made to do the hard yards socially. I would never go into a social setting and not make an effort. And every time you speak to someone, you think whoever it is you speak to with your full attention and your full heart. Do you know what I mean? This is about looking at what makes that. That's the most exciting thing about life, is what makes other people tick. Love that. Yes. And that could be how they eat or what they read, or just like you're doing now. Do you know what I mean? The fact that you're even interested in this is lovely. You know what I mean? So that is one of the things I think that being slightly downtrodden teaches you. It also teaches you never to do that to someone else. It's really important. So the fact that my girls went through that, I think, is really good, because they will never do that to someone else. They will never seek to make someone feel ignored or small or belittled or anything other than good about themselves. I see it in my brother as well. His brilliant gift is to go into a room and just make everyone feel better. About every conversation he has, they come away feeling like...
How does he do that?
Because he's honestly interested in whatever he tells them they are doing. He will think that's the most amazing thing. It's the most amazing thing. You could be a tea lady, and you just, my God, what tea do you make? Oh my God, that's amazing. That and sincerely, that's not a...
I think that's sincerely is the operative word, because a lot of people, you can just see through the gooey platitudes, and people are like, oh yeah, but it's actual genuine interest. That's interesting.
It is, but that's, I think that just having not had that, you crave that, you know what I mean? When you were surrounded by people that would laugh at everything you did and belittle everything. I remember a teacher saying I wanted to be a vet when I was about 7. And I remember the teacher saying to me, you know what, Nisha, the animals would look after people like you rather than you looking after them. This was a teacher in my school. And so can you see that if somebody looked at me, because I remember my first job was in a job centre, I was a little administrative assistant in a job centre, and that somebody would think that that was even slightly interesting. You think, oh my God, that's amazing. And I'm still there emotionally. I'm still earning £2.50 an hour.
Yeah.
And that was my first job. And the fact, the crazy thing is, the fact that people would think that that was good, that would do me, it's just an amazing thing, yeah.
And then it's so interesting understanding just the lens through what you like that you were brought up in terms of like the food, and you said that's a way to getting just that sharing that love and that passion connection. Going back kind of, and this will just jump all over, but back to kind of the storytelling that we started with. How do Indians tell stories through food, and how have you brought that into Mowgli?
Every single dish. I mean, God, honestly, Indians, as you're finishing one meal, you're thinking about the next one. So what happens, and this is not just Indians, if I'm honest with you, this is about any of those countries, any of those nations where there is paucity. Because where there's a lack of, where there's no wealth, where you're deprived, where there's deprived communities, food is dead important. Yep. So, you grow a cauliflower, that cauliflower's got to feed 10 people, and that is it's pride of place on it. So there's no ingredient that is humble. Everything is, it's really valued. And therefore, when you've got to kind of titrate food through your life in that way, where there's really not enough and you've got to feed your kids on a cupful of lentils, those lentils have got to really mean something, and they do. So the other thing that happens out in the East is that you have religion feeding into food a lot. So you see it in Islam where they can only have halal or whatever. My father was a Hindu priest. Yeah. And in Hinduism, it's so interesting. So in Hinduism, widows were the real trailblazers, because they found things like, there's a resin that you grind. It comes from a tree. You grind it and fry it, and it emulates onion and garlic. So they get really clever with their spicings. They can turn, the leaves, I'm talking about a cauliflower, the leaves of a cauliflower plant, this is one of my mum's best dishes, into the most astonishing curry, not even using garlic or onion. I don't know if you understand how big a deal that is. Garlic and onion, you could fry toenails in, they taste amazing.
Yeah.
But take that away from an Indian kitchen, and so there is this really clever innovation and virtuosity that comes through Indian food, that comes from the fact that there is a religion saying thou shalt not. And Hinduism is all about, many of these Eastern religions, about thou shalt not. You will not eat meat, you cannot eat garlic, you cannot eat onion, you cannot eat at this time of the day, you can't eat on a Thursday, all of this. And therefore every meal becomes really precious and has got a story behind it.
It's almost as the constraint forces people to be creative and relentlessly resourceful.
Yeah.
And then that makes I never even thought of it like that. So it's almost all these constrictions make, the food more, what's the word? It makes it more of a seminal moment in the day.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's much more precious. And you have, and therefore there's no waste, and that's a philosophy that I'm really passionate about in Mowgli, is food waste. So in India, this is a crazy thing, but if you drop a grain of rice, everything is bound by superstition. Everything is bound by you're cursed if you do.
In India?
In India, yeah, according to Hinduism. And so if you drop a grain of rice, on the floor, that's a very bad thing. That's almost, rice is almost seen as a demigod, and it is an offense to the god. So you don't waste a single grain of rice. It's that, but I'm sure there's an analogy of that in Chinese culture where food is precious. Food naturally, it becomes almost personified. Can you see that? That rice is almost personified. It's almost like a god.
Deity,
It's like a deity.
Yeah.
And, when food is personified, it becomes precious, and it's got a story behind it and all of that. And it's really, and as an Indian, you come, whatever, I was born here. So I was raised with these kind of stories, and you don't hear them anymore. You just think, oh, that's my mum being daft. But there is something so charming about it.
Yeah.
Because we don't have paucity. I was raised in Skem, which is actually in the West, so it's rich, it's great. You know what I mean? We had electricity and running water. That's an amazing thing. So these stories become, irrelevant really, but there is something really charming and important about them, about that whole, the fact that you're even interested is just a sweet thing,
No. So I interviewed, have you heard of the restaurant Cole?
Oh God, it's amazing.
Santi.
God, it's amazing. He's a lovely guy.
Lovely guy. So I interviewed him, and we ended up going on for like 3 hours. It was wild, but it was this most beautiful conversation. Again, paucity. He had a wild story. He lost his granddad, his Ma and his dad in the same month. Moved to London with literally no money at all, which built him that, like, there's no plan B, mate. Like, I'm gonna make this happen. He had 20 quid a day, and he would just walk around. He'd spend 5 hours walking around Shoreditch, five hours walking around Hackney, 5 hours walking around Clapham, and like he was just like visualizing where he is gonna go and where his restaurant's gonna be. Is because I chose Marylebone because anything you stick next to Marylebone dentist is going to be great. Marylebone dog kitten. So you knew exactly what he was doing. But he was talking about that sort of, again, that kind of echoing that immigrant mindset, but that desire and that kind of anxiety on the one hand, but also this, because they've got nothing, this just positivity. It's like, he was like literally you go down the street in Mexico, there's geezer doesn't have a, has literally no money, he will buy you a beer. And there's this kind of, I don't know the exact words, this kind of like just can-do attitude. It's like, your car's broken, fuck it, we'll find like a log or something, you know? It was so interesting. Because you've just come back from, is it I'm so bad at pronouncing it.
No, India, Varanasi, India.
So that's where you
but yeah, that's my ancestral home.
So when you go there, so teleporter's there right now. Paint the picture. What does it smell like?
My God, have you seen, like, I'm trying to think, it's kind of like something out of Game of Thrones. I'm trying to think about where it would be. Have you ever watched Game of Thrones?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
I'm trying to think, it's like a different planet. There is life at every level. So you're down the streets, all you can hear are the bells, the beeping of the horns, the shouts of the hawkers, cows walking next to you, goats walking next to you. This, people with their dark skin and their big, wide smiles, just incredible. Ancient buildings at every level. So and it's a bit like Venice in this way. Every grille, every door handle, every window is exquisite. It's exquisite, and it's that idyll where, there are not. So you get off into the little sort of alleys, and there are no cars. There's the odd scooter, but you're walking alongside cows, the lowing of the cows, and then there are these, and this is what I built Mowgli round. So there's that twinkle of the fairy lights and the festoon lights, that twinkle of these little lights in the doorways where somebody is just plying their trade, they're plying their sweets or their bhajis or their samosas or whatever it might be, their raw coconut, the paneer, whatever it might be, there's twinkling doors. So in many ways, it's like stepping back 300 years.
But the architecture you're talking about, what year was that?
So some of that is whatever, 1300s, 1400s, 1500s. Wow. It's the oldest city in India. So that's really old. It's known to be the oldest city in India. So ancient. You've got the temple where Buddha was born there, or whatever, the building where he was and got enlightenment is there. Yeah. So we are talking ancient, Britain is also ancient. You had the Romans and things like that, but the buildings that you can actually go and live in are that old, 1300s, 1400s. So the doors are therefore tiny. So that's why I love these Mowgli doors. So if you were to stand, that's not, I'm pointing at a door here.
I'm a half pint. So it's fine.
Yeah. But it's good. It's handy and dinky. It used to be big. Yeah. You get backache with long bones. You don't want to.
Yeah. So if I'm right in saying each restaurant has its own unique door.
Yeah, it does. God, yeah.
Talk to me about the doors.
The doors.
Yeah.
So,
where does one fucking get one of those?
I know. That's the thing, is that we really do. I'm really anal about sourcing the right doors, because so if you look at the architecture on that door, you'll see in the top of the architrave there are elephants. That's the Ganesh god. So this is very much a Hindu door. This is my background. Yeah. So I'm very particular about the kind of architecture and the kind of design that's on it, that it does go back to Hinduism. That's my background. This is the food of Mowgli. It's, those are the roots of it. So and there's only sort of me that would know that. So it's got to have that particular eye to it. And then usually on the doors you have a little plaque that tells you the person that lived there, etc. So every door is really personal. And you think, okay, these are, ornamental trophies in a way, but they're not. You go to India and every door is like this. It's really stunning. And it's that, of course, because it doesn't rain very much. It rains through monsoon and then it's dry. So they preserve really well. The wood doesn't rot. It's just it's incredible. So it's a very important part of Mowgli that I can bring these artifacts that speak to where the provenance of the.
Where did you go and get them from? Like,
got loads of different places. So we've got a load of dealers that go, because I can't afford to go out to India and pick them or hand pick them. So somebody sends us, images of the doors, and then I interrogate them, and then we've got a couple of dealers that have got them in the UK, and I go and handpick every single one of them. Wow. Yeah, which is great. It's a nice part of the job, really.
Yeah. That's fascinating. I want to go back. Again, I'm really bad at pronouncing things.
India, Varanasi.
Varanasi. Yeah. what is that? Like, how does that change from, we talked about the fray lights from day to night. Like, how does the city change?
Yeah, you see, it's such an interesting thing. So in the day, at night, it's really interesting. At night, it becomes a lot more haunting and beckoning. It's a bit quieter. When the street lights come on, and it's like Mowgli at night in a way. It's a very different feel. It's that come hither. It's like fireflies in the night, and there's something magical, isn't there, about night? I think in any city.
Well, this is what was perfect about setting up today. As we got here, we're recording this, and it's like almost December.
Yeah.
2:00. It was obviously grey malaise out there, but as it's got the energy of the room as it's got dark, is just as you say, like the fireflies.
Yeah, it's like
and it's
that,
like,
yeah.
is that what it's like?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because what happens is in the daylight you can see everything. And it's all interesting, everything. So you can see the 3 layers of the buildings. You can see that there's a woman hanging a washing up there. There's a guy smoking his whatever up there. There's a cow on the roof. How the hell did it get there? In the daytime, your eye is drawn to
There's
everything.
cows on the roof.
There are cows. There are buffaloes on the roof. I can't. You can't. How did they get up there? It's unbelievable. Like, we went to the Burning Ghats, and honestly, you can just see. So, what the interesting thing about Varanasi is, it's a city to die in. So, it's a Hindu. What they say is that you have 7 reincarnations, and then you reach nirvana. Yeah, so heaven, whatever.
Yeah.
The way to bypass all of those heavens, according to one theory, is you go and die in Varanasi. Okay, so people queue to die. There are hotels, they're called death hotels. Oh God, we should do a program on this. But there's death hotels where you go to die. It's like a nursing home, but so that you die in Varanasi. Yeah, you pull into, so you get out the airport, you get in a car, and you're driving into Varanasi, and alongside you will be dead bodies on the back of pickups, dead bodies being carried through the streets. You just see them everywhere. And then you go down to the Ghats and those dead bodies are burning and you can watch them. And there are towers everywhere. Is
it like euthanasia or like?
No. It's just they just go to die. You die pretty. Yeah. My parents died pretty young. My mum didn't actually, but my dad did. Smoked himself to death. You know what I mean? They die pretty young. We've got the crappiest genes going. Heart disease, diabetes, whatever. Do you know what I mean? So, so they kind of know when their time is coming, and then they go to Varanasi to die, and that's the holiest place to die. So it is really. So can you imagine? You go to the Burning Ghats, and there's kind of a tower there, and there are a buffalo at the top of this little round sort of observation tower. It's crazy, and a shaggy goat up there, and chickens, and it's that wildlife. So in the daytime, your eye is drawn to everything. At night, because the fairy lights come on, your eye is drawn to only certain areas. It sort of pinpoints certain things, doesn't it? It brings the most interesting bits alive, and that's the difference between day and night.
So I hadn't when I do these conversations, I just unearth things I hadn't even thought about. But like, it'd be in some cities get better as they get darker, and some are better in the daytime. I was in I spent a bit of time in in Colombia, this place called Santa Marta. In the daytime, it's like near the national park. Daytime is kind of grotesque, even though the weather's like so bright and sunny. Like, you see a lot of just people in kind of squalor conditions.
Terribly
it's really
poverty,
sad. These dogs kind of strewn on the streets.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a bit discombobulating. It's not like a nice place to be. But at night, it changes. Like, this energy, the noise goes up. There's the kind of the music, which I kind of was drilled into my head by the end of it. But it's super fascinating.
Do you know what it is that's said interesting? I think what you're saying. So in India and in countries like that, and I think they're very similar to India actually.
Interesting.
Colombia, what happens is you don't eat until night because it is so hot that you've got to wait for the sun to completely go down in the kitchen to cool before you even start cooking. So in our Indian home, you don't start cooking till 10 or 11 o'clock at night. We then eat at midnight or 1. Can you imagine that? And even when my parents moved to Skem, as a child, I used to eat at midnight. It's messed up, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's why I've got dark bags under my eyes. But there's the truth. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, so what happens is it's when those hot countries get into night and it gets cool, that's when they come alive. That's when the street food comes out then. Do you know what I mean? And that's when people go out and eat, and the kids and everyone are out on the street because it is cool enough to eat. And that's why you feel more alive in places like that. It's hot countries. It's almost like Spain, the Andalusian way or whatever, or the south of Italy as well, which is as it gets cooler, in the night, that's when all the families go out to eat. Because that's the only time you'd want to put hot food in your body is when it's cooler. And that's why cities are better at night. Those cities are better at night.
Makes so much sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, because London's closes early, really.
I think so, completely. Yeah, apart from
yeah.
China, and even Chinatown closes early.
It closes
Yeah,
really
yeah,
late.
yeah.
It's 11 o'clock, most of the boozers are shut.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
it
But then
is.
it equally, I mean, I do drink probably too much, but I will get to the boozer for like bang on 12, like, and have like a sesh all day.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's just fascinating
Yeah.
a way to look at things. I think I read on your Instagram about when you'd been to the city or recently, you were talking about like sacred and preserved traditions and knowledge and stuff like that. I think, especially what we're saying in this sort of dopamine, you know, sort of tornadoes of distractions with Instagram, emails, and just kind of you sort of just like a tornado of just distractions. What are some of those lessons you took from there or from that for your recent trip that you think are like it's almost ancient wisdom for modern wisdom, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Do you know? So what we're doing out there is that we are developing 4 girls' schools.
Yeah.
So what is amazing, and this isn't just about the breadth of wisdom or whatever, it is how revered education is out there. You know, these little girls, they didn't have electricity or running water at home. So in these schools, it's the only place that they get clean water. And they take water home to their entire, water a village from the school or whatever. But their uniforms were pristine. They live in complete hovels where you can barely wash, and yet their uniforms are pristine. There's a tradition in India that when you're getting married, the first person you take your wedding sari to bless it before you get married is your teacher. Can you imagine your first teacher? That is how much they revere education and their teachers, and how reviled I think education is in this country. I think we are raised in this country to go on about, oh, got me bloody homework, and then we develop it into work, can't wait till it's Friday, can't, you know, we are raised to hate the shackles of having to go to school, having to do homework, having to work till Friday. Heaven forbid we should have to do overtime. And it is totally on its head, that entire philosophy out in the East. You are glad to work. You feel, and I still feel that, you know what I mean? And I know my brother does. We have been raised that you are lucky. It sounds awful, but God, we've been lucky to be employed. Why would anyone employ us? Do you know what I mean? You're lucky to be employed. You're lucky to have gone to school. You're lucky that, you know, you're on a trajectory through education that's going to get you somewhere, that you can read and all of that. And that is the thing that sticks with you. These people who have got so little out there and they revere the right things in life. And I think here we can be total arses about what really matters, that business about. Yeah, I get a bit frustrated about that, you know. About kids going on about how much they hate school or whatever. Do you know, I mean, I'm not talking about, you know, if you're having a particularly horrendous time at school, but I think we are inured and we are raised with that kind of language that it's a chore, that all of it is a chore, that, you know, to have to do your homework or to have to sit through the school day. But then it bleeds into work, you know, that you're having the fact that, you know, you can't wait till 5:30 to get off or whatever. I don't know, I just... God, it's what makes the world go round. It's what gives us a sense of purpose. You know, when I get to 80 and I've got no job, I'll be bloody desperate to, you know, to look back on those days where I was employed.
I'm really bad at strategy.
Yeah.
I'm a very much a ready, fire, aim, fuck it, let's just go for it kind of guy.
Yeah.
But we've been doing this for 5 years, and I'm now, and it's kind of, it's really nice, and it gets me excited of actually planning out the future.
Yeah.
Is there any like 1 or 2 lessons or mistakes you've made with being prudent into the future? Like, how do you set out strategy? Do you use Excel spreadsheets?
Don't use spreadsheets at all. But how do you
do it? Like, how do you manifest and use the spirit and the business
the spirit, the divining of it?
Yeah.
It's easy. Do you know what? We don't overbuild. We're not building 200 restaurants a year. You know, at the most we're building sort of 5, 6, 7 restaurants a year. That's easy. That's a piece of A4. You know, in terms of actually, here's the thing: we need 5 restaurants. How many bodies do we need? What does head office look like to cover all of that? I think the thing is when you have a menu that doesn't change all the time. You know, I know what people like. People don't. You know, people go to Wags because there are certain dishes they want. People go to Nando's because I go to Nando's because I want a half chicken, medium peri-peri, those chips with the sauce on. Don't mess with coleslaw. Don't mess around with my order. Don't mess around with the menu.
What, did you get peri-peri salt?
I get peri-peri salt on my chips. Well, why would you have chips with that peri-peri salt?
Yeah. I know it's blasphemous.
Do you know what I mean? So we know what we want. I go to Greg's. I want a vegan sausage roll and a straight sausage roll and a cheese and onion pasty.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? We know what to. Yeah. So
you're not fucking around.
Yeah, we're not. So when you streamline your business and the widgets don't always keep changing. it's easier to have a strategy. You know, it really is. If I had a menu that changed every week and we had specials, the amount of effort that takes to train up, it makes your chef's lives an absolute misery. Not just that, it makes your clients' lives a misery because they know what they want and that, you know, this is the thing. So it's a beautiful business to grow, Mowgli, in that way. And it really is just a case of, you know, we know what we needed for 3 restaurants. We know what we needed for 7. Not a lot is changing in that way. You know, we've got to constantly innovate and constantly develop things. So, you know, I'm developing our seating a bit and the way that we look a little bit. And, you know, there are some new dishes on the menu, but it's not a massive change where the brand becomes suddenly unrecognizable to them. So it makes strategy very easy. And
as in like knowing what the business is before.
Yeah, knowing what the business is and how that, you know, how that, you know, what's required for, you know, for per widget, per module. So you then times that by 5. It's quite easy in that way. It's not hard to recruit because thank God we're one of the businesses to work for Sunday Times, which is great. So we treat our people well. So recruitment is really easy. Our chefs' lives are easy because they're not constantly having to come up with new dishes and mess around. They are given a playbook and they play by the playbook and they cook fresh and we look after them. And we have a zero tolerance policy on any bullying or any aggression that comes from our days of domestic violence. You know what I mean? We are a really hygienic, kind place to work. So, you know, the things that would confound many people when they're growing, which is, God, how do you recruit? And are your staff a nightmare? Our staff are a source of absolute joy. They really are. I love them. You know what I mean? They're a source of joy. So can you see that strategy becomes quite easy, and strategy is absolutely important. It really is important, you know. You know, and the selection of sites and what is that module? What does that look? What's the ideal Mowgli like? Let's always strive to get the ideal Mowgli.
Everything's downstream from that one sentence, which I'm going to absolutely butcher, which is we exist to enrich the lives of the people who love us.
Yeah, in the cities that we go, starting with our people. Yeah, and we live to enrich the lives of the people who work for us.
Yeah,
that's the thing, you know, and from there, all good things flow. If I give them a good menu, good methods, a good, you know, recipe list, they know what they're doing, they know how to cook. I'm telling them how I want my people to feel when they come in, my guests to feel. You give them the playbook and it's really comprehensive, then you just love them to death and make sure they love being in work. And it's as simple as that, really.
Final question. What's one truth you believe that most people would disagree with you on?
What's one truth?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's that whole thing about, you know, I don't know if people disagree with it, but I do believe that the right doors open and the wrong doors stay closed. I wanted to come to London many, many years ago, and, you know, a site in Liverpool that cost me 35 grand a year in rent for the same size of site in London would have cost me 285 grand in rent. And I really wanted it. It was hubris. I wanted it. And it did not come off, and thank God it didn't, because that it would have meant I'd have stopped growing. Do you know, as opposed to taking a 40 grand site in Preston or whatever it might be. Do you know what I mean? It meant we could keep growing, and I do believe that my hand is guided. I may be the most disillusioned person in the world, or delusional, not disillusioned, but I'm not disillusioned, but a delusional person in the world. But it really helps if you think, if you know, things don't happen, it's for a good reason. So I think the right doors open, but more importantly, the wrong doors stay closed for you.
Amazing.
That helps.
Nisha, thank you so much.
It is.
Absolute
Well,
joy.
thank you. I think you've been amazing. I think
Thank
you could
you so
do
much.
anything in the way. You could be a psychoanalyst.
No,
you could be a criminologist.
Honestly, I think
you could be.
It was. I love that. I mean, I think we could have had like a 3-hour conversation about the books alone.
Yeah, we wouldn't have got past books. We didn't even get on to films. We didn't even get on to box sets.
That was such a joy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Brilliant. No, thank you.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you're loving the episode. I'd appreciate a really small yet significant favor, por favor. Please, may you click the subscribe button, get in the comments, tell me what you think about the episode, tell me what you think we did on the show. It may not seem much, but it really helps us grow and helps us get bigger guests. Thank you so much.